My father disappeared for 20 years, and now he wants to reconnect. I was 8 years old when my dad left. I remember the day vividly. It was a Saturday morning, and I had just woken up, excited to spend the weekend with him. He had promised to take me to the park to fly the new kite he'd bought me. But instead of finding him in the kitchen making pancakes like he always did, I found my mom sitting at the table, crying silently. "Where's Dad?" I asked, clutching my kite tightly. "He's gone," she whispered, barely able to meet my eyes. At first, I didn't understand. I thought he'd gone to the store or maybe left for work early. But as the hours turned into days, and the days into weeks, it became clear that he wasn't coming back. The next few years were hard. My mom worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat, and I did my best to help out, even though I was just a kid. Every time I saw a man with dark hair and a kind smile, I'd wonder if it was him. I'd imagine him walking back through the door, apologizing for leaving, telling us it had all been a mistake. But he never came. No letters, no phone calls, nothing. It was like he had vanished into thin air. As I grew older, I stopped hoping. I told myself that if he didn't want to be part of my life, then I didn't need him. I buried my feelings deep down and focused on school, friends, and eventually building a life of my own. Then, out of the blue, everything changed. It was a rainy afternoon when I got the call. I was 28 years old, working as a graphic designer, and living in a small apartment downtown. When my phone rang, I didn't recognize the number. "Hello," I answered cautiously. There was a long pause on the other end before a voice I hadn't heard in 2 decades said, "Is this Anna?" I froze. The voice was older, rougher, but unmistakable. "Dad?" I whispered, my heart pounding. "It's me," he said. "I know I have no right to ask this, but can we talk?" I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to hang up, to scream at him for abandoning us. But another part of me, the little girl who had spent years waiting for him to come back, wanted to hear him out. We agreed to meet at a cafe near my apartment. I spent the next few days agonizing over what to say. Should I demand an explanation? Should I forgive him? When the day finally came, I almost didn't go. But curiosity, and maybe a sliver of hope, got the better of me. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with a cup of coffee in front of him. He looked older than I'd imagined. His hair was gray, and there were deep lines etched into his face. But his eyes, those same kind eyes I remembered, hadn't changed. "Anna," he said, standing up as I approached. I sat down without saying a word, my hands clenched into fists under the table. "I owe you an explanation," he began, his voice trembling. "I know I've hurt you, and there's nothing I can say to make up for the years I missed. But I need you to know the truth." He told me he had left because he was struggling with severe depression and felt like he was failing as a husband and father. He didn't know how to ask for help, so he ran. He said he had spent years regretting his decision but didn't feel he deserved to come back until he had worked on himself. "I was a coward," he admitted, tears streaming down his face. "And I've spent every day wishing I could undo the pain I caused you and your mother." I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to believe him, to forgive him and start fresh. But another part of me couldn't forget the years of heartache, the birthdays and milestones he had missed, the nights I had cried myself to sleep wondering why I wasn't enough for him to stay. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said finally, my voice shaking. "You weren't there when I needed you most." "I understand," he said quietly. "I just hope that someday you'll let me try to make it up to you, even if it's just a little." The conversation ended awkwardly, and we went our separate ways. I spent the next few weeks reflecting on everything he had said. Slowly, I began to realize that holding on to my anger wasn't helping me. It was only keeping me stuck in the past. I decided to give him a chance, not because he deserved it, but because I needed closure. We started meeting for coffee once a month, and over time, I began to see him not as the man who abandoned me, but as someone who had made terrible mistakes and was trying to make amends. It hasn't been easy, and our relationship is far from perfect, but we're rebuilding one conversation at a time. Sometimes, forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of the pain they caused. My dad may never be the father I needed growing up, but he's here now, and for me that's a start.